Spin-offs and side projects from gaming's biggest names are nothing new. For every one that people remember, like Pokemon Snap, we have forgotten gems like Pokemon Typing Adventure. Compared to other franchises, the Legend of Zelda series hasn't seen remotely the number of spin-offs and external projects, perhaps partly due to some famous disasters from its history that don't really need mentioning. Guaranteed crap like this isn't always the situation, and in the case of the two games featured today, sometimes they can be something magical. This is BS The Legend of Zelda. BS stands for Broadcast Satellite, by the way, and at first glance it looks like an unofficial fan game. This isn't the case though, and the Nintendo logo is in the credits for a reason. In the mid-90s, a company named Saint Giga, one of the world's first digital broadcast companies, introduced the Satellaview add-on for the Japanese Famicom, which worked like a satellite receiver for your console. The game you're looking at was broadcast and downloaded into the homes of Japanese families, where it was only playable during the broadcast hour for that week. In that hour, you would have to play through a quarter of the game, finishing at least 2 dungeons, and accomplishing as much as you could before the broadcast for that week was over, of which there were 4 comprising the entire game. In the NES version of Zelda, completing this task would have been almost impossible, but BS Zelda was altered from its original state by Saint Giga. They made a number of updates, most notably by shrinking the overworld by half. They also divided the world into sections to make navigation easier and to prevent players from getting lost. Amazingly, when Japanese gamers experienced the original broadcast, there was narration and voiceover as characters spoke to Link from afar or gave him clues about the world. This may seem bizarre, but the service was extremely popular at the time, at its peak having over 100,000 subscribers. While this story is fascinating and there's much more to go into, I'm not really here to talk to you about BS Zelda. It has never received a re-release in the almost 2 decades since the service ended, and while you can go back and experience the 4 parts as they originally played, my preferred version of BS Zelda is a project fans have named The Legend of Zelda Third Quest. Third Quest is a fan assemblage of all 4 parts of BS Zelda, minus the timer, with a more traditional Link taking the place of the original Satellaview avatar. I'm just going to say it, this game, which I think 90% of people haven't even heard of, kicks the ass of the original NES Zelda, which we all know in so many ways. Don't think that I don't like the classic game, because I really do, but it's near impossible to play without a guide, and the visuals, while classic, do lack in variety and are just screaming for a Super Mario All-Stars-esque revamping. Third Quest fixes both of these issues, giving us gorgeous SNES-era visuals with the sleeker map and dungeons of the BS version. Because Saint Giga originally intended to break the game into 4 clean chunks that had to be beaten within an hour, the game moves at a much faster pace, with less time spent getting lost or consulting outside help. This focus also helps the dungeons, which are made to be less obtuse and focus more on the action, which plays to the original game's strengths. But this wasn't the only classic Zelda game which has received this treatment. I was, like many I know will be, absolutely thrilled when I discovered that A Link to the Past had also received a Satellaview broadcast, once in its original format, but also as a brand new game which included a completely new story and quest taking place 6 years after the events of A Link to the Past. This is A Link to the Past Ancient Stone Tablets. Once again, I'm having to tell my brain that this isn't some unofficial knockoff, and I assure you, that logo really is Nintendo. Like BS Zelda, Ancient Stone Tablets, AST, streamlined and divided the content into 4 weeks of broadcast, just like the BS version of the original Zelda, but this time we're not talking about a few adjustments in the format of the first adventure. AST is a brand new Zelda game, essentially a second quest mode of A Link to the Past. The story takes place after Link, the hero of legend, has left on the journey depicted in Link's Awakening. A new hero, who's basically just the Satellaview male or female mascot, is thrown into Hyrule and must stop Ganon from returning. While the map is overall the same, the landscape of the world has changed in various ways, and the location, order, and entire internal structure of the dungeons has also been changed up. Like BS Zelda, things were again restructured to fit the time limit, meaning dungeons are more action-centric and fast-paced. You get new items at a rapid rate, sometimes several within the same dungeon, and the puzzles are centered around using your items in clever ways, sometimes perhaps not originally intended in the Snes classic. Like the A Link to the Past that we know, there are hidden bottles, heart pieces, and plenty of side quests to be had. After you beat the 8 dungeons, there's a rematch with Ganon and a nice little resolution to the plot. Like BS Zelda's Third Quest version, there's an additional fan-assembled version of AST called the Master's Quest, which aside from removing the timer in the game, replaces the Satellaview mascot with Link or Malon, and also ramps up the challenge, especially in the boss fights. Which one you prefer comes down to personal preference, but if you only want to try one, I'd say go for the original AST. The timer in the game doesn't feel that intrusive, and there's a lot more world events linked to it than the original BS Zelda, making for a wild and unpredictable experience. The BS Zelda games and their unofficial versions represent a lost treasure trove within the franchise. All of the information about them, as well as available versions, has been collected by an amazing site, which I highly encourage you to go to. I grew up on these old Zelda games, and seeing this new side to them was a rare thrill. Don't just listen to me say this. Please, take a moment and go experience these amazing adventures for yourself. Hey, thanks for watching my video. If you enjoyed this little adventure into obscure Zelda games, be sure to subscribe so you can be informed when my next video is up. Also, go back and check out my Zelda Timeline Explained series, where I try to break down the crazy timeline into 3 easy parts. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.